week 2 of the high school football season, and what a first Friday we had last Friday. A lot of interesting results. We'll try to dissect what happened last week, as well as look ahead to the things we're talking about in week 2. For starters, let's go to impressions of week 1. And Joe, you saw a school record performance. North Gaston 69 points, beat East Gaston 69-29, ended East Gaston's 5-year stretch of victories over North Gaston.
Yeah, it was it was quite a performance by North Gaston. They just stayed true to what they do, and Isaiah McNeil and Kareem Kennedy really went off. Both went over 200 yards. Both had 4 touchdowns, and it was a virtuoso performance.
The game I went to, Crest South Point, could have gone either way. The score looks a little deceptive. Crest 28-11. You had a late touchdown interception against South Point. The big news for South Point is certainly the health and condition of starting quarterback Keaton Hale, who sprained his knee late in the game. Jimani Leeper came in there. I don't know that. I feel pretty confident that Leeper or whomever they put in center, they can make that work. But obviously, to take Leeper away from the wingback position would hurt South Point and diminish them a little bit. But I have no doubt that they'll figure it out by the end of the year. But that certainly hampered their ability to move the football. In fact, they were driving on the play that Hale got hurt and had a chance to take the lead, and it didn't work out well for them. But both teams really went at it. Hard-hitting game. Crest quarterback Peyton Kimmerlin had a sprained ankle, so there was a lot of hard hits doled out on both sides, and just a real entertaining game between two opponents that we expected when the year started. We'll be talking about in November and possibly into December.
Yeah, both of them are. From what you've told me and what I've kind of seen online and watching huddle tapes and things like that. Hard-hitting game, as you said. Yeah. Both teams went tooth and nail for 4 quarters, and as you said, 17 points. I guess that last touchdown was cosmetic, but it just kind of displayed exactly what Crest can do. And if anything, defensively particularly, South Point has a lot of optimism.
Obviously, last week, Cherryville-Bessemer City, round 1 of a 2-part series this season. Cherryville comes away with a win with a late defensive play. Surprised many of us. I mean, Bessemer City comes off winning the conference title a couple of years in a row. A big statement win possibly for Cherryville.
Certainly.
But there were a couple other statement games. Stuart Kramer, I think a lot of people looked at last year's win against Lincoln and, well, that was kind of a fluke. Well, they went and removed all doubt. I mean, they took care of business at Lincoln. And then the other one that I was kind of intrigued by, and of course, I did their preview, but I haven't seen them play. Forrestview goes up to East Lincoln, who I was really impressed with when I saw them at the Stuart Kramer scrimmage against Stuart Kramer. Yeah. And Forrestview, a really impressive win for them. Other games, around the area last week, but, those are kind of my first impressions of week 1.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Clover.
Yeah.
It seemed like they were unsettled at quarterback. It kind of revealed that again. I think he started one quarterback and then went to Gabe Carroll. And Gabe Carroll came in and lit the house on fire. 18-21, 329 yards, a touchdown, and another one rushing. And if they can get that type of production from him, they could be set, and the schedule really lines up for them pretty well down the line.
Certainly, we are blessed with all sorts of possibilities for Players of the Week. We pick 2 each week. Again, we're letting readers. You can go on GastonGazette.com and make your votes known. Each week. We had Elijah Burris, unbelievable production, one of the highest scoring totals in the history of Gaston County with 38 points. You had Zoe Wallace, 300 yards passing.
Yep.
I think he accounted for 7 touchdowns.
Yep.
I think 5 passing and 2 rushing. You had Isaiah McNeil and Kareem Kennedy at North Gaston. Just Hope Cloninger at Forrestview. In the history of Gaston County that I've got, 8 50-yard field goals or more. He kicked 2 in one game.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't the record of it, just remarkable things. And obviously, got some Stuart Kramer defenders. Obviously did a bang-up job to shut down Lincoln's offense the way they did. Just really good all-around week for a bunch of individuals in the area, and I think you couldn't go wrong with a lot of people you could pick.
Right. It was just a great week for Gaston County players, and just a great way, first impressions, and they really made their impressions felt.
Obviously, we opened up the picks last week to allow people to join us in picks. They beat us to death. A rough week.
Some experts we are.
Yeah, some experts we are. I had a losing record, 2-4. Joe goes 3-3. But 5 of you folks picked 5-1. And so we're, 4 people picked 5-1. Christy Miller, Cooper Carp, Ron Smith, and Matt Kane. Congratulations to you guys. for doing good last week, because that's a good week given, obviously we're all learning the first week and we're picking based on probably last year, a little bit based on the week before's scrimmages, but certainly this season we anticipated it being interesting. It is going to be that way. I mean, it certainly is. We head into week 2.
Yeah, and the kind of feeling out process. I think I put it in my, what did we learn? What did we learn from dress rehearsals? Nothing. As we said, East Lincoln really looked great against Stuart Cramer, and then last week against Forest View, they really couldn't muster anything.
Right. And
then same with Stuart Cramer. Stuart Cramer
struggled.
Yeah, they struggled a whole lot, especially on the offensive line, and then come out and really dust up a good Lincoln squad. At least that's what we think they are. And you just really don't know what to make of it. North Gaston as well. North Gaston struggled against Clover and then come out and score 69 points. Who would have guessed that? So really this is going to be kind of week to week as we kind of feel things out.
Well, this week you got 6 teams that are off in our region: Burns, East Lincoln, Highland Tech, North Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, and West Lincoln. So it'll be interesting to see what games are you looking forward to this week. And I'm actually looking forward to the game you're going to. Stuart Cramer, goes to Mountain Island Charter. I went to that game last year at Stuart Cramer. Stuart Cramer had their way with Mountain Island Charter. Is there any difference this year? I mean, based on last week, there isn't, because Stuart Cramer's defense is just as salty as it was a year ago, and Mountain Island Charter as good as they were. But coming off a 70-point performance, I think it'll be fascinating to see how Mountain Island Charter deals with Stuart Cramer's defense and navigates them this time. And like last year, Stuart Cramer really had their way offensively against Mountain Island Charter's defense, so it'll be a fascinating matchup. And you'll be going to that game too. So what are your impressions about that, Joe?
Yeah, 48-13 game last year. I don't think it's going to be that type of game, but it's going to be some tough sledding for Mountain Island Charter, just because of the fact that, hey, we're going up against a team that's bigger than us. We're going up against a team that probably has more depth than us. And also, Kendall Carr is going to be a matchup problem. He went 6 for 62 last week and a touchdown. It's going to be, how will Mountain Island Charter match up with them in that way, and how will they kind of figure out a way to get their playmakers involved? Burris is going to be leaned upon a whole lot, but how will they find ways to get other people involved when the run game potentially gets shut down?
Yeah.
That's going to be a big question.
We've got other intriguing matchups. Clover at Forest View is a game I'm going to. East Gaston at Bessemer City is intriguing. East Mac at Ashbrook. Ashbrook opens the season after starting the season with a bye. Huss is at Cox Mill, a real interesting matchup for Huss. Lincoln at South Point, we were talking about earlier. One of those teams is going to be 0-2. That's hard to believe this early in the year. North Gaston at East Rutherford. Fascinating matchup for North Gaston. So. They've struggled against East Rutherford recently. Can their offense travel to Forest City? Shelby goes to AC Reynolds. South Caldwell at Kings Mountain, 2 teams that had a bye week last week. Yep. Kings Mountain's opener, much anticipated opener in that town. And TC Robertson's at Crest. I'm kind of curious to see. I'm going to the Clover Forest View game. Clover 29-18-1 against North Carolina teams since 1962. And recently they've even been more dominant than that. They are 10-4 all time against Forest View. They've played them a lot. The districts are close to one another. Yeah. Is Forest View, can they build upon last week? What will Clover do after beating big rivalry game in York? They start their kind of North Carolina swing, because I believe it's at Huss, and then they host South Point the next 2 weeks. So certainly Clover will be one of the North Carolina teams for the next 3 weeks, starting with this week in a matchup against Forest View. Doing some research, Chase is at Cherryville. Cherryville had not won a season opener until 20 since 2014, and they've only won 7 since 1985. And 1985, ironically enough, is the last time they started off 2-0. So a big chance for Cherryville to steal some momentum that they rarely see. And a lot of that has to do with challenging opening games and opening schedules of the season, but a chance for Cherryville that they rarely have.
Right. And Cherryville won by 3. Chase lost by 3. There's a certain kind of mix right there where both of them could have gone either way in both of those games. So it's going to be fun to see exactly how that turns out and whether Cherryville can move to 2-0.
And like we say, Lincoln and South Point and East Gaston, Bessemer City, 2 matchups where somebody's going to fall to 0-2. And that'll be tough early in the year, but it is still non-conference games. You're still working out the kinks and figuring out what you have and what you don't have. Fascinating. Lincoln South Point rivalry really dates to when it was Beaumont High first played in 1925. So, a long-standing rivalry. A little bit like North Gaston and East Rutherford. They played way back when it was Dallas High, East Rutherford, and they played 33 times since North Gaston opened in 1971, frequently as conference rivals in Old Southwestern Conference. But, you know, you've got some intriguing matchups. East Meck and Ashbrook used to be 4A conference rivals years ago. They played last year for the first time since 1992. So a chance for Ashbrook to get off on the right foot. I mean, I think there's a lot of optimism of what they've got going on over there in the second year under Coach Brian Andrews. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do.
Right. And I think the game I'm kind of looking most forward to is just that Hunter Huss Cotts Mill game.
Right.
Cotts Mill really surprised everyone last week when hung 40 points on Mount Pleasant in a shutout. And Dane Horton threw 4 TDs, 168 yards passing. Michael Lewis had 6 receptions, 84 yards. It looks like it's going to be strength against strength because that Hunter Huss secondary is as nasty as it gets. And if Hunter Huss can really manage things in that way and really shut things down in the pass, what exactly will Cotts Mill bring to the table? The other thing for Huss that you got to watch out for is penalties. Last week they really rung it up as far as penalties are concerned. Had over 100+ yards in penalty yardage. So we have to see exactly whether they can stay disciplined and whether they can stop the pass. That's going to be keys for them.
Yeah. Well, again, a lot of good matchups this week. We'll have more coming up down the road. And again, we're soliciting your opinions. We're going to have Players of the Week, and you guys can get on and vote. That's ongoing. That'll start Monday morning around 10 o'clock. Players of the Week. You guys get to vote for one of the Players of the Week. The picks, you get a chance to vote on that. GastonGazette.com. I believe those picks will be up and available to be voted on sometime on Tuesday afternoon, possibly. And you get to vote and see how you do and see how you stack up. And again, we're trying to get one of the winners each week to kind of join the panel of us. I don't know if you can call us experts after last week, but certainly followers. We're certainly followers of the sport, whether we're experts or not. I guess that remains to be seen. But also, you know, keep you guys involved and included in our coverage this season.
Certainly. And it's going to be fun. Maybe not so much for at least one of the teams that might fall to 0-2, and we have 2 games in which that could be
two teams are sure to be 0-2, and that's a tough start for them. But and particularly when you look at Lincoln and South Point, they didn't feel like they'd be in that position heading into this week.
But it should be fun. Look forward to it.
Yep. Well, this is heading into week 2 of high school football, and we'll be back next week to talk about how week 2 went and what week 3 looks like.